Hi. Whoa, it's nice and loud today. How are you guys? Good. What? Walking the aisle. There's no one here. Yeah, you can see. You could even sit down. We've got your money already. Uh-huh. Cool. First time here? Yeah. Oh, that's right. So today, our guest artist is Tanner Clark, this young man here. He's a glass sculptor, and he's going to be making, where is it? Where's that drawing? Ah, the gun. He's making the various parts. He's making a part that holds on the sight. He's got a little picture of a gun at his bench. Let me just give you just a brief introduction to how glass blowing works. Everything that we do starts out in our glass furnaces. The glass furnaces are the ones where you see the square hole in the wall and the door closed. Mm-hmm. Uh, may have. I'm not sure. Nope. When it's molten, it's kind of like honey. Why don't you let me explain it to you? Work that'll be easier that way if I tell you and then you can ask me questions. So behind that door is a big ceramic tank. In that ceramic tank's 1,000 pounds of molten glass. We keep the molten glass at 2,100 degrees, and at that temperature, the glass has the consistency of honey. So it's like dipping into a big jar of honey. We want to get it out. We take one of those steel pipes. Those are called blow pipes. And we dip it into the molten glass the way you dip one of those wooden honey dippers into a jar of honey. So kind of like to use one of these. We dip it in. A little bit of the glass sticks to the end of the pipe. Pipe is hollow, so when you blow, ball of glass blows up like a balloon. If you want to make something larger, you dip it in, blow a little bubble, let it harden, dip it in a second time, or a third time, or a fourth time, and just keep building up the glass in layers. All the glass that's in our furnaces is clear, has no color. We buy our colored glass in the form of these bars. This is called color bar. They're just densely colored glass bars. We want to make, say, an orange bowl. We cut off a little chunk of orange, blow a little bubble of clear glass from the furnace, and then we melt a layer of colored glass over the clear glass. We dip that in more clear glass, so what you end up with is something that looks colored, but if you cut through it, you'd see it's just that little lining of color. Now, in a big factory where you're going to make 1,000 bowls and they're all going to be the same color, then you just melt a big tank of colored glass and you dip into it. Here, we're a bunch of artsy-fartsies. We want to make a red thing, then a purple thing, then a blue thing. So we color each piece individually by melting on a layer of colored glass. So we buy these like an artist buys paint, red, yellow, pink, purple, blue, and we can have 100 different colors at our beck and call whenever we want them. So now do you have questions? Okay, the color in glass, you really only color the glass itself when you first cook it up from scratch. Most of the things that color glass are metals, not all of them, but most of them. So if you cook up the raw ingredients of glass with cobalt, you get blue, chromium green, a little bit of gold pink, a lot of gold, beautiful ruby red. So it's not, there's a number of chemical reactions. It's not as straightforward as you put a blue thing in there to make blue. It's not quite that simple. They don't mix, because of the chemistry, they don't mix as straightforwardly as paint. There is some of that, but it gets a little more complicated. When we make multicolored objects, we just melt different colors of glass onto the same object. Now we can do things like we could put a transparent yellow on and then put a transparent blue over that. And when you look through it, it's going to look green. But the layers stay separate. They don't mix. Yes, sir. The glass is made out of three things: sand, soda ash, and lime. It's mostly melted sand. The soda ash is sodium carbonate. It lowers the melting temperature of the glass, of the sand, and the lime is calcium carbonate, and that stabilizes it chemically. Sand. People who say silica are just trying to be fancy. I call it sand. $2,100 degrees in that furnace there, right? Yes, the containers since the beginning of time have always been ceramic. So a clay, high temperature clay pot. Well, the furnaces, the ones that have the glass in them, when they're brand new, we heat them up over 4 or 5 days, and then we leave them on for 6 or 7 years. So we don't heat that thing up each morning. That's on all the time. The glory holes, which are the round guys in which we reheat and soften the object that we're working on, those we turn on an hour before we start, and we shut them off at 5 when we quit. It wouldn't, if we turn on the furnace, you know, we could just turn it on and it'd be hot in an hour, but we heat it up slowly so that we don't break the big ceramic pot that's in the, holding the glass. Yes, sir. Little sparkles. Sometimes he shapes it with a pad of wet newspaper, and some of the little flakes of newspaper, you know, as the newspaper burns, you get little flakes that make little bright sparks. So we use a little pad of folded up newspaper, just ordinary newspaper. We soak it in water, we use it to shape the glass, and sometimes you get little flakes of newspaper burning up, and that's probably, I think that's probably what you saw. How do we get the glass off the rod? Well, when we've got the shape that we want, we make a little notch in the glass, So imagine that this little notch in my microphone is that. When we're ready to remove it, we drip a little water into that notch. When the cold water hits the hot glass, it starts to crack, and we tap on the pipe, and the little crack will follow the notch. It's kind of like tearing a coupon out of a newspaper. Make a nice sharp crease. When you pull on it, it breaks away along the crease. No, it just has to be wherever we want to break it. Yeah, you can't do it around the metal pipe. You have to do it beyond the end of the metal pipe. No. No, the glass that's around the little end of the metal pipe, that picks up iron from the pipe, and that's polluted. That's just waste. If you watch Will in the dark gray shirt, he's dipping that steel pipe into our big tank of molten glass. All glass, when it's hot, looks some shade of orange. Whether it's red, blue, pink, purple, or green, the orange color that you're seeing is the glow from the heat. So that glass that he's adding right now, that's clear glass. But when you get it fresh out of the furnace, it glows. Powdered colored glass. You just take a colored glass, crush it up till it's a powder, and then you take like a little flour sifter and just sift it on. Then put it in the furnace, the powdered glass melts on, you get a little candy coating like an M&M. Yes? Nope. Every once in a while, when the things get really big and really hot, we'll put on a glove. But there's a lot of fine hand manipulation. It's hard to do with gloves on, so unless we feel like we really need them, we don't put them on. He's making a gun. You see the cardboard drawing over here? Making this part right here. So we add little extra pieces of glass. We call it adding a bit, B-I-T. Hot glass sticks to hot glass. So you dab it on. If both things are hot, the two will stick together. Yes? Okay, why do the pipes not get as hot, not get too hot? The answer is physics. It's not what the pipe is made of. It's the shape. The pipes are really long. They have a great deal of surface area compared to their mass, so they radiate the heat very efficiently. Also, once you coat the end with glass, glass is an insulating material, so it shields the pipes from the direct heat of the furnace. Now, they do get hot, but not nearly as hot as common sense would lead you to believe. If they become uncomfortably hot, we have a little gadget over here. I don't know if you can see it from where you're standing, but it's called the pipe cooler. You might want to stand up and look. Can we get a camera on the pipe cooler? So we just lay the steel pipe in there, step on the foot pedal, spray water on it. That cools it down, makes it easier to hold. There's two ways in which we heat up the glass. Sometimes we heat it up with a big round oven. Sometimes we heat it up with a torch. When he heats it up with a torch, like he just did, that allows us to focus the heat in a particular place. So we can make just that part of the glass extra hot and extra soft. And then we can shape that part without disturbing the rest of the object. We almost always work in teams. Glassblowing is a team sport. The team part of it is the functional part. So it's not these other guys on the floor besides Tanner. It's not their design. It's Tanner's design, but yeah, they're helping him physically, not collaboration artistically. Yeah. The furnaces run on natural gas. There are also our electric furnaces, but we don't have one. Yes. Yes. I don't know what it is, they don't tell me. But I imagine it's pretty high. Are the furnaces left on continuously? I'm going to repeat so everyone knows what I'm answering. There's two types of furnaces. There's the glass furnaces, the ones that have the big tanks of molten glass in them. Those are on 24/7. Those are the ones with the doors closed. The ones with the doors open, the round ones that they're going in and out of, those are only on during the working day. Oh, I have no idea. How long will it take to make? I do not know. I've never seen him make a gun before. I'm guessing all morning. Yes, soda lime glass. Sand, soda ash, and lime. Yes, sir. What type of training? There is no formal system here in the United States, so people come to it in all sorts of different ways. Some people get a job in a glass shop and work their way up. Some people go to an art school. There's probably maybe 50, 60 art schools across the nation that teach glass blowing. So people come to it all different ways. It's much more like learning to play piano than it is like being a lawyer or a doctor. A lawyer or a doctor, there's a formal system and tests and licenses. Glass blowing, it's like learning to play piano. So Tanner's stretching out a glass rod. I think he's going to make a little triangular sight. we put up some of Tanner's sculptures up on the big screen? If you look up on the big screen, you'll see some of Mr. Clark's sculptures. He often combines metal and glass, and he's interested. He's a metal worker as well, and he's interested in things mechanical, like these camshafts and yeah. Is it common to get burned? We get burned like you might if you worked in a restaurant kitchen. So we get little burns that are annoying but not medical. I can't remember the last serious burn. You guys have any questions? You're making the gun on the cardboard. You're making the, I think that's going to be the sight, that little triangle. Straight over there, that's our glass burn. And behind that door, we have a big ceramic tank, 1,000 pounds of molten glass. Keep the molten glass at 2,100 degrees. Do you guys have any questions? You know there's going to be a test, don't you? Just kidding. I'm going to blow a bubble in there. Make sculptures. So they want to make an engine block in a car. So he's going to blow a bubble in there and it'll take on that shape. Shape it, and keep it hot. If it gets cool too quickly, it'll break. Slide them out on the little rail. I don't know. He's made one before. when we get our glass, we get it 50-pound bags of these. It's called cullet, C-U-L-L-E-T, all cooked up. We throw it in our furnace. We cook it overnight at 2,400 degrees, and in the morning it's ready to use. When we finish our glass, we put it in one of these big ovens, and we cool it down slowly overnight to relieve all the stress, and that's called annealing. The opposite is tempering. Tempering is cooling it very quickly under very controlled conditions so that the outside of the glass shrinks and goes into compression and makes it harder to break. So that's your car windows are tempered. This stuff is annealed. The car windows are cooled quickly. These things are cooled slowly. You have any? Yeah, I think we're gonna. Yeah, I think we'll probably get to that in the afternoon. I think. It's Tanner Clark. He just walked off. He'll be back momentarily. He's from Kansas. He must have gone to use the facilities. He'll be back momentarily. There he is. That's Tanner. Yep. More often, recently, I'd say it's maybe 30% non-glass artists. Yeah. I mean, the thing that really makes it work is we have a crack team of glass blowers that work for the museum. So if the person's not a glass maker themselves, we have people who can make their designs. So, yeah, no, it's always interesting. Oh yeah, no, it's they get pretty excited. But Tanner is a glass artist. Tanner's been working glass since 2002. He started in high school since he was, no, 2002. So it's been a while. He currently works at the Martin Blank Studios. Martin Blank is the artist that made the sculptures out in our reflecting pond. Does anybody have any questions? You guys have any questions? Serena, do we have the drawings? So as we finish each of the parts of the gun, we're going to take them to our annealing oven. We're going to be using an oven that's in the back of the studio. Everything that we make here has to be cooled slowly overnight. So we'll bust it off in the annealing oven, and we keep the annealing oven at 920 degrees all day long. We place all the objects that we make in there, and then at night we start the cooling process and slowly turn it down to room temperature. If we just made the objects and set them on a table, walked away, they would cool too quickly and unevenly, and they would shatter. So if you watch Tanner, and then the dark t-shirt, he's got a blowpipe and he's dipping into our big tank of molten glass. Is that a pipe? I think it is. Behind that door, we have a big ceramic tank. In that ceramic tank, we have 1,000 pounds of molten glass. We keep the molten glass at 2,100 degrees. And at that temperature, the glass has the consistency of honey. It's like dipping into a big jar of honey. Every once in a while, steel pipes get hot. When they do, we take them over to this gadget here. So he's going to blow a little air into that steel tube, the blowpipe. He closes the end with his thumb, and the heat from the glass itself expands the air and blows the first bubble. So no huffing and puffing like in the movies. He's rolling it on the steel table to shape it. That steel table is called the Marver, M-A-R-V-E-R. And when we shape it on there, it's called marvering. The first one that he made he wasn't satisfied with it, so we're remaking. Does anybody have any questions? We put up the gun picture again? So this is what we're making. And right now he's making the barrel of the gun, the tube to the far left. Thank you. You use that small torch. It allows him to soften just the part that he's working on. So you can shape that part and not affect the rest of the object. Each time he heats up the glass, it stays soft for about a minute. When it starts to get too stiff to shape easily, and we return to that big round oven, that's called the glory hole. We heat it up again, soften it, and then we do a little more shaping. Okay. I'll give you just a brief introduction to how glass blowing works. Everything that we do starts out in our glass furnaces, where you see the square holes in the steel wall and the doors closed. We have two of them, one on each side. Behind those doors is our glass furnace. Each glass furnace has a big ceramic tank. In that ceramic tank, we have 1,000 pounds of molten glass. We keep the molten glass at 2,100 degrees Fahrenheit, and at that temperature, the glass has the consistency of honey. So if you can imagine a giant crock pot full of honey, that's what our glass furnace is like. When we want to get it out to make stuff, we take one of those steel pipes and we dip it into the molten glass like you dip one of these into a jar of honey. So we dip it in, twirl it around. A little bit of the molten glass sticks to the end of the pipe. The pipe itself is hollow, so when you blow, ball of glass blows up like a balloon. If you want to make something larger, you dip it in, blow a little bubble, let it harden, and then you dip it in a second time, or a third time, or a fourth time. Just keep building up the glass in layers. Once we get the glass out of the furnace, it only stays soft for a short period of time. So at this point, you can think of the glass like wax. When you get wax hot, it gets soft, but fairly quickly again, starts to get stiff. And we have a minute or so where we can shape it easily. So we do whatever shaping, cutting, chamber. So we stick it in there for a minute, it gets soft again, and then we go back to the workbench and shape it. If you've ever seen anybody work at a forge, making swords or horseshoes, they take the steel, put it in the fires, soften it, bang on it a little, back in the fire, soften it again, bang on it some more. That's the same thing we do here, except we don't use any hammers. So that's our guest artist. Everything we're making today is his design. The man in the dark t-shirt. It's Tanner Clark. Tanner is a local artist. He's originally from Kansas. He's been working in glass since 2002. You can see some of the things he sculpted in glass here on the pedestal. Why doesn't the pipe get hot? Okay, the pipes do get hot, but not as hot as common sense would lead you to believe. The reason is physics. The pipes are very long. They have a great deal of surface area compared to their mass, so they radiate the heat very efficiently. Also, once you coat it with glass, glass is an insulating material, so they're shielded from the direct heat of the furnace. You don't need it. Sometimes we're making really big things, and we'll get really close to the glass, we'll put on a glove. There's a lot of fine hand manipulation when you work the glass, so it's hard to do with gloves on, so we only put a glove on when it's really uncomfortable. Where is the color? Well, you can really only color glass when you first cook it up from scratch. It's like making a chocolate cake. You get all the ingredients, you mix them together, and you bake them. The things that color glass are metals. Different metals give you different colors. Cobalt makes it blue, chromium makes it green. We don't cook up, what we do here is a little different than most places do. We don't cook up the glass ourselves. We buy colored glass in the form of these bars, and then we melt a layer of colored glass onto our clear glass. So if we were going to make an orange bowl, we'd blow a bubble of clear glass from our furnace, we'd melt a layer of orange on top of that, dip it in more clear glass, so what you end up with is something that looks colored, but if you cut through it, you'd see it's just that one skinny layer. Now, in a big factory, we're going to make 100 things and they're all the same color, then you melt a tank of colored glass and you just dip into it. But here, we're making a red thing, then a purple thing, then a blue thing, so we color each piece individually by melting on a layer of colored glass. what? In the buckets? Yeah, it's water. We have wooden tools in those buckets, and so we keep them wet so they don't burn. So this is what we're making, and Tanner is making this part right here behind the barrel. So we want to put a little spiral stripe around this part. So we're going to do what's called a roller wrap. We roll the pipe on those two sets of rollers. The sets of rollers are angled slightly. So as we turn it on those rollers, it turns, but it also moves backward at the same time. So when we attach the thread of glass to it, the thread of glass will wrap around that solid chunk in a big spiral. It will all become a little clearer when you actually see it happen, which should be momentarily. So Will, the guy with the gray shirt and black hat, he's getting a bit, an extra piece of glass. He's cut it to a little point. And now we're going to wrap it around Tanner's part. Tanner's the man in the black shirt. We'll come over, dab it on, pull it away, and now we'll start to spin it, and the little thread of glass will wrap around that solid part in a little spiral. So that's called a roller wrap. So this way, you get a nice even spiral. You guys have any questions? Good? So we're adding a little stripe along. Could we put up the robot drawing? So you look up there. So he made the head sitting here. We just made the body this morning. We made the robot arm last week. And then he's going to glue all those parts together. It's in one of these ovens cooling down. Everything that we make has to be cooled slowly. If we just make something and set it on a table and walk away, it'll cool too quickly and it'll break. That wouldn't be good, no. Well, when it first comes out, it's kind of like dipping into a big jar of honey. So it's hot and soft and gooey. Why don't I get some and show you? Yep. So as we finish each of these objects, we're making the big gun, as you can see on that cardboard drawing. We're making it in parts. As we finish each part, we take it to our annealing oven. We have an oven in the back of the studio. We heat it up to 920 degrees every day. We place all the objects that we make during the day in there, and at night we cool everything down slowly all at once. So we'll keep it at 920, put everything we make today in there, and the oven has a little computerized thermostat, and it will slowly, slowly turn it down to room temperature. If we just made it, set it on a table, walked away, it would cool too quickly and unevenly and it would shatter. Do you guys have any questions? Questions are free. No? These guys must have. How long is it? I think it's going to take all morning, because maybe a little even into the afternoon, because so far we've made the sight, we've made the barrel, we made the grip. Yeah, I think it's going to take a little bit into the afternoon. We'll work from 10 to 1 and then 2 to 5. And so I don't think we'll be done by 1. Well, he's going to glue them together when they're cold. Okay, if we are going to glue them together, we grind each surface flat, and then for something like this, we'll polish it, and then we use some kind of epoxy to join the two together. You guys have any questions? Well, the annealing is the term for when it's all done. So he's working on it now. And you want to know how he knows how hot it is? Okay, when it starts to get, we only want to work it when it's shaped, we can shape it easily. So think of the glass like wax. When it gets hot, it gets soft, but fairly quickly, it starts to stiffen again. So he'll shape it until the point where it starts to become difficult to shape, and then he goes back to the oven and warms it up and softens it again. No, I'm just the tour guide. Our guest artist is Tanner Clark, the tall guy in the black shirt at the center of the workbench working the glass. Crew is working for Tanner. On Wednesday through Sunday here we have out-of-town artists, and they work with our resident team of glassblowers. This is our glassblowers weekend, Monday and Tuesday, so we invite local artists to come and they bring their own team. So those guys, Will and Matt, are working for Tanner. And Alfonso. I should have turned around and looked. The steel table that he's rolling the glass on is called the Marver, M-A-R-V-E-R. It does two things to the glass. We shape the glass on it, but it also cools the glass down. So that'll make the glass a little bit stiffer, and it'll do the shape. Stuff that where the two sides go together, you can suck into that. You want to make veiled paint. You want to make it to make like a red tube. So we're going to add some stripes. Tanner, tall guy in the black shirt, is getting the glass for the stripes. When we add little pieces of glass one to the other, it's called bring a bit, B-I-T. So we'll use bits to make the stripes. Cool high school here at the museum. Oh yeah, anybody wants to take photos, knock yourselves out. The balcony is also a good place to take photos from because you're a little closer to the work and nobody's standing in your way. Just lays on a stripe of hot glass. Hot glass sticks to hot glass, and we have ourselves our stripes. Can we put up the gun drawing again? So we're making this part. I don't know if you can see my little laser pointer light. It's making this part right here. Yeah, well, I think he wasn't happy with the first. So he's making it over. These artists are fussy people. That's the pipe cooler. That's a T-shaped metal trough. We just lay the steel pipe in the trough and spray water on it to cool it down and make it easier to hold. So we're not doing anything with the glass. We're working on the metal pipe. So we're laying the two, I guess you would call them horizontal stripes. Hi guys, how are you? Do you guys have any questions? Why are they making it so hot? Well, glass is only soft when it gets really, really hot. Like the glasses in your house, you can't shape them because they're room temperature. So if you want to shape glass, you got to make it really hot to make it soft. And when it's soft, you can shape it, cut it, blow it, twist it. Does that make sense? You know what when you get ice cream warm, it gets soft, right? When you get butter warm, it gets soft. Well, glass, it also gets soft when it's hot, only it's got to be much, much hotter. They're making that gun that you see on the cardboard drawing. So right now he's making the little grip. Can we put up the gun drawing again? So right now he's heating up a small spot on the object. He's going to squeeze it down, make a little notch there, and that'll give him a place where he can break it away from the metal pipe. He's squeezing it with those scissors, those shears, making the notch a little sharper. He's flattening the top there with a little metal paddle called the tag. We're going to add another disc, and then we're going to transfer the glass from the rod it's on now to a second steel rod. This second steel rod will act as a handle to hold it from the end that's sticking out, so we can shape the end that's now stuck to the pipe. So we're going to wind on a little pad of molten glass. We'll flatten that out to make a disc shape. So we take the second steel rod, the punty, attach it to this. It's punty, the second steel rod is going to act as a temporary handle to hold the object from one side while we shape the other. We're ready to break it off. We'll take a pair of tweezers, dip them in water. We drip a few drops of water on the place where we want it to break. A little tap, and off it comes. Do you have any cards, Ryan? Hi. Hey. I was about to start my tour guide spiel. I was about to start my tour guide spiel. Yep. You're in for training. Training in what? Oh, okay. Do they have like science teachers here? Do they have? So we're just about done with this part. We're going to take it to our annealing oven where it will be cooled slowly overnight.